Hey everybody, as I had promised, I wanted to fill in some more of the newborn information. We left off here on application of the nursing process. So we had talked about the basic information that the nurse should reinforce as part of newborn care. We discussed a lot of different teaching things this morning, and I would review those. When we provide this information, it's important to remember not to sort of laundry list it, but to obviously be modeling the behavior. Yes, we're providing instruction, but we're also doing exactly what we want the parents to be doing and showing them by us modeling that behavior with the infant. And the last point is I want us to never assume that just because somebody has a baby at home that they don't need as much education. Certainly if the mom says, oh yeah, I already feel comfortable with how to give the baby a bath, then great. Maybe she doesn't need step-by-step instructions on how to sponge bathe her baby until the cord falls off. But if it's somebody who had a baby 5-6 years ago, she may need all of those refreshers. So don't ever assume based on number of children she's had. We've talked all about identification at the start of class today. This is what one of the infant security ankle tags does look like. We left off talking about Hep B. Let me make this big for you guys. So with hepatitis B, the moms are always tested. If you remember back to our pregnancy material, every woman gets tested for Hep B in the beginning of their pregnancy with all of their other prenatal blood work. So if mom is positive, their child, once it's born, is going to still get the Hep B vaccine just as every other newborn infant does. But to try to prevent transmission of Hep B to the baby, so from the baby having obviously been inside of mom, to try to prevent the baby from also being Hep B positive, we give hepatitis B immunoglobulin, which is HBIG. We give that injection at birth as well. So that baby that's born to a Hep B positive mom actually gets the vaccine and immunoglobulin, just important to remember. Okay, so we talked about ways to prevent infection in a baby. We talked about obviously hand sanitation, making sure no sick visitors come. And then, we talked about moms who have infections, whether they had an infection before they delivered, a chorioamnitis, or whether they end up getting a endometritis, which is an infection afterwards, an infection in their endometrial lining of their uterus. From after delivery. So if mom has a fever, I want to drive home, we do not need to isolate her from her baby. So just if mom has an infection going on, but the baby does not, and the baby's in the room, it's not something that we need to separate them. Obviously, anyone else who's coming to visit, if they are sick and have a fever, they should not be around the baby, but we do not need to separate mom and baby. So I also left off talking about the screening tests. I have an image up here that's showing you about the newborn screening test, the blood screening tests that are sent to the lab, to the state lab. Every state mandates, guys, that these get done. And as I was saying in class, it's imperative that as nurses, we are ensuring that all the paperwork for this and the actual blood test is sent off. So you can see the nurse in the image here is taking the lateral aspect of the baby's heel and using the blood from that to fill in these circles on the paper. When the blood gets analyzed, they're checking for all different genetic conditions and endocrine conditions that's listed below here where it says blood screening test sent to the state lab. I just want to give you a quick indication of how important this is. So let's say a baby is born with congenital hypothyroidism, so their thyroid gland is not functioning properly. If that's not corrected and found out, which there may not be any signs of early on other than having the results of this test, that baby can have mental retardation as a result of being hypothyroid. So when this test goes to the state, if that gets picked up on, that baby, his pediatrician gets alerted, the interventions happen, and we can hopefully prevent long-term complications from any of these things. Obviously, they're not all fixable. Some of these are genetic conditions. So this is just early detection is really the name of the game here, guys. Okay. I spoke about, I'm going back up to the top here, I spoke about pulse ox at the start of class, so I won't discuss that again. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is the hearing screen. So every newborn baby is going to be screened, just as this baby below, for hearing when they're newly born. This usually happens, first day of life. If the infant doesn't pass the hearing test, We do not tell the parents that the baby can't hear. It's just that the baby needs to be retested and then referred if they don't pass, okay? So all babies get this hearing test. It can take anywhere from 2 minutes if the baby is super quiet, like this baby, and it just picks up readings of brain waves. But if the baby is sort of active and crying, it could take up to 20 minutes to actually complete the hearing test. As the nurses, we set the baby up, and it's all computer generated, and the computer tells us when the test is done. All right, we've talked about, we've talked about all of these things. Soothing and calming, I think we mentioned in passing, right? Swaddling the baby and holding the baby, and shushing noises really help to soothe and calm a baby, and always, always back to sleep for the baby. All right, guys, don't hesitate to email me with any questions, and I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday morning.